Welcome again to Ancient Tales for Today. We're looking at some stories from a very old book. We are also studying English. 我们正在学习英文. So, here's the old book. We've been talking about people like Abraham and Sarah and a culture that seems so strange to us. Today's lesson is lesson number 18, bargaining for people. Bargaining for people? 一般说来，我在市场讨价还价. But how do you bargain for people? You want to stay by for another interesting lesson from Ancient Tales for Today.
Story number 18, Bargaining for People. Bargaining is part of life. You bargain over the price you pay in the market. You bargain over how much you should be paid at work. You bargain over the rent for your apartment, or at least you try. But can you imagine bargaining with heaven? Not over paying for anything, but over people. Sounds like an interesting idea, doesn't it? Abraham saw himself as a friend of God. Over the years, they had had many conversations, but when Abraham learned that the God of heaven was going to destroy some towns because of their terrible wickedness, he decided to bargain for the people in those towns. Why? I'm sure he wanted to save the people, whatever they had done. Most of all, Abraham didn't want his God to get a bad reputation. He was worried that other people would think badly about heaven if these towns were destroyed. So Abraham started bargaining. You wouldn't destroy these towns if you could find 50 good people there, would you? The God of heaven promised he wouldn't destroy the towns if there were 50 good people there. So then Abraham bargained downwards. What about 45? What if there were 40 or 30? The God of heaven promised he wouldn't destroy the towns if he could find that number of good people there. In the end, Abraham bargained the God of heaven down to 10 good people. 10. But sadly, the God of heaven couldn't even find 10 good people. That's the sad part of this story. But the good part is Abraham trusting in God, his friend, to do what is right. In fact, that is what he was totally sure about. Shall not the judge of all the earth do right? Abraham asked. That's the point. The judge of all the earth always does right. You can be sure of that, as Abraham proved.
Okay, bargaining is a part of life. 人生经常有讨价还价, right? Bargaining, very important word. Even out here in the Far East, it's an important part of life. Sometimes people put the price up high, and so you have to get the price back down, okay? Now, you bargain over the price you pay in the market. Market, 市场. So the price, 这个价钱, and you are not happy, you know it's too high, so you bargain, 讨价还价. Okay, now, you bargain over how much you should be paid at work. Now, this is a little bit more difficult because when you are working, you talk to your boss and you bargain with him sometimes. Some bosses, they don't bargain. Boss, 这个老板, okay? So some people allow you to bargain, some people don't allow you to bargain. But usually you have an opportunity to talk about your salary. You bargain over the rent of an apartment. 公寓. 公寓 is an apartment. Okay? And so you're going to live in the apartment, but before you live in there, you first what? You first set the price. And how do you do that? You bargain, 讨价还价. And so the owner has a high price and you want the price to be much lower. At least you try. 至少你要试试看. 至少你要试试看. At least you try. But can you imagine bargaining with heaven? 跟上天讨价还价. Whoa, now that's different, isn't it? It's not, we are used to speaking in those ways. Not overpaying for anything. It's not about 付钱或者一个价钱. So you're not bargaining over money. Now we're not talking about money, but we're bargaining over people. 为人讨价还价. Now that's interesting. It sounds like an interesting idea. 很有趣的情形. Very interesting. Abraham saw himself as the friend of God. I think that this is an important point. In fact, Abraham considered himself the friend of God. And you will discover in different parts of these ancient tales, the Bible, you will discover that several places, 几个地方, it mentions Abraham as the friend of God. 就变成神或上帝的朋友. Over the years, they had had many conversations. Conversations, 对话, okay? Many conversations as they're talking back and forth with each other. Going on. But when Abraham learned that the God of heaven was going to destroy some towns, okay, 当亚伯拉罕听到这个天上的神要毁灭一些城市, okay, some towns, because of their terrible wickedness. Now, this is not new words because we have seen terrible wickedness before. 可怕的这个邪恶or 罪行, okay, terrible wickedness, badness. If you want another way of saying wickedness, you could say badness, terrible, 可怕的. He, that's Abraham, decided to bargain for the people of those towns. 他是为那些人开始跟神、跟上帝讨价还价. Okay? Now, this is a good question. Why? Why would he do that? I'm sure he wanted to save the people. He wanted to save the people. 要拯救那些人. He didn't want them to be destroyed. Actually, our story here doesn't say so, but he actually had a relative. 他有一个亲戚住在那些城市里面. Okay, whatever they had done, 不管他们是做什么事情，他就是要拯救他们. Most of all, and this is interesting, most of all, Abraham didn't want God to get a bad reputation. Bad reputation, 他不要上帝得到或让上帝得到一个不好的名声啊，名声啊 reputation. I have a reputation. You have a reputation. What is a reputation? A reputation, 名声, is what other people think about you. This is a reputation. You have one, I have one, we all have a reputation. Now, he was worried that other people would think badly about heaven if these towns were destroyed. So this is Abraham's worry. 他担心如果上天就毁灭这些城市 people would think badly about heaven. 人家就开始对上天很有意见的. See, he's not thinking about anything else. He's thinking about God's reputation. So, Abraham started bargaining. 他就开始讨价还价. Now, in a little while, we'll come back and we'll see how they bargained. But we'll take a little break. We'll be right back. Okay, let's take a look at Psalms 33, 4, and 5. And this is Psalms 33, 4, and 5. More light on our path.
是诗篇的33篇第4、第5节，是吧？
That's correct. So here we go. For the word of the Lord is right and true. He is faithful in all he does. The Lord loves righteousness and justice. The earth is full of his unfailing love.
诗篇的第33篇第4节、第5节这样说：因为耶和华的言语正直，凡他所做的尽都诚实。他喜爱仁义公平，遍地满了耶和华的慈爱。
Okay, now as you looked at these stories, Lena,
好，
especially this story, what kind of questions come to your mind?
我看到这个故事的这个题目，我已经觉得很奇妙。他说 bargaining for people， 就是说为了那些个人，他可以去讨价还价。那这是亚伯拉罕跟上帝讨价还价。在人看来觉得他胆子很大哦，那个是上帝哦，所以也看到他和上帝之间的关系很奇妙的，是不是？
Exactly. I think most of the people, we look at God as being very big, 很伟大。
对，很伟大，很害怕上帝，有的人很害怕。
But it is possible for people to get a close relationship with him. In fact, it even says of Enoch. Remember Enoch? 以诺，
对。
Okay, what do you remember about 以诺？
以诺跟他上帝摔跤啊。
Oh, no. You know, so He is the one that walked with God.
哦，300年，
Yeah.
对。
yeah. 他是与主同
同行
行。
300年。
So he became a good friend with
对
God.
对对，
Now, Abraham was God's good friend.
对，那就是说，当我们的关系很亲密，彼此很了解、很亲的时候，我们就敢跟他讨价还价。像我们跟爸爸，我们就敢讨价还价，对不对？
That's true.
小孩子就不会很怕他爸爸，因为他知道爸爸爱他，所以他会讨价还价。
That's true. That's absolutely true.
嗯，
Okay, so now Abraham is starting to bargain. And here we go. You wouldn't destroy these towns if you could find 50 good people there, would you? 如果你能够找到50个好人 good people, 你不会这个毁灭这个城市，是不是？ Okay? Now that, of course, he's asking God. Interestingly enough, the God of heaven promised he wouldn't destroy the towns if there were 50 good people there. 很有趣的是，这个上帝 okay, the God of heaven, 这个天上的神应许 okay, I'm not going to destroy, 我不会毁灭 if there are 50 people. And I can imagine Abraham says, "Whew, okay, good. Certainly a town has to have 50 good people. But no, there weren't 50. So Abraham starts bargaining downwards. He starts to lower the price or the number. In this case, we're not talking about money. He's lowering the number. Okay? And so, what about 45? 45位吗? Okay? What if there were 40? 有40位吗? Or 30? 30位呢? What about 45? What if there were 40? What if just 30? See what Abraham is doing? He's saying, okay, I'm a little bit worried about this. Maybe there's not 50. How about 45? How about 40? Going on. Okay. The God of heaven, interestingly enough, the God of heaven promised he wouldn't destroy the towns if he could find that number of good people. 如果他能够找到这么多的好人, well, now what is it now? It's down to 30. 找到30位好人, 那这个他不会毁灭这个城市. The God of heaven promised that he wouldn't destroy the towns if he could find that number, which is 30, of good people there. But in the end, at the very end, okay, Abraham bargained the God of heaven, 天上的神, bargained him, got him to lower his standard, his condition. We say the threshold, 这个门槛, threshold. Hey, that's a good word. Down to how many? 10 good people. Can you imagine this? I mean, can you imagine bargaining with God? It's okay to bargain with people and to get them to change their mind. But can you imagine that you're doing this with God? But sadly, 很伤心的是, the God of heaven couldn't even find 10 good people. Abraham started with 50, 45, 40, 30. Now he's down to 10 and still cannot find 10 good people in those cities. That's the sad part of history. 这个是历史上的，我这个故事上的最伤心的事。You know, here God is willing. He doesn't want to destroy people. He wants, and especially with Abraham, his friend, taking their side, 为他们说话, but not even 10 going on. The good part is 好的一部分. The good part 好的一部分 is that Abraham is trusting in God, his friend, to do what is right. Okay, Abraham is trusting God. 他是信任上帝，上帝是他的朋友。Okay, Abraham is trusting in God, his friend, 他的朋友, to do what is right. 要做那些正确的事情。You know, you can do what is wrong, you can do what is right. But he was trusting God that he would do what was right. In fact, the ancient tales actually has this quote. Now, I can't quote it exactly the way the Gu Jing says it, but the English is very, very interesting. He asks a question, 这个是一个问题，难道 OK 全地球的法官 that's God, of course, because he's the judge of all the earth. 难道全地球的这个法官我不会做正确的事情吗？ Whoa, now that is a challenge. 真的是一个挑战。 But the interesting thing is, that's the point. The judge of all the earth always does what is right. And that's the whole point of this story. I think it's interesting, personally. I think it's interesting that Abraham knew God so well that he could speak frankly, 坦白地跟神这个讨价还价. Isn't that something? You have to know a person very, very well. Okay, that's the point. The judge of all the earth, 全地球的法官 always does what is right. 总是会做正确的事情. You can be sure, 你可以肯定这件事情 as 就是亚伯拉罕 Abraham proved it. 他就证明. Now we'll be back with another section in just a moment. Okay, now the title of this lesson, Lena, is Bargaining for People.
对。
So, bargaining.
讨价还价。
Bargaining. We do this almost every day. Where do you bargain?
有的时候买东西的时候啊，我们就会跟那个老板说那个价钱哈，太贵了，便宜一点，这个就是 bargaining.
Right. But in this case, Abraham was bargaining with God because he knew God was good. And so he said, you wouldn't do that, would you? You see. So he trusted he knew God very well. He was bargaining for people. Another one, apartment.
住宅、公寓，自己
Okay.
住的地方啊。
Yes, I live in an apartment. Do you?
Yes， 我也是。
Yeah, okay. And then the last one is reputation, 名声啊。
名声
Okay.
reputation，
So you have a good reputation
好的名声，
and a bad reputation.
坏的名声。
And of course, we want to have a good reputation.
当然了，
And we want God to have a good reputation too. So we always say good things about God. Well, we've been looking here at the ancient tales, this book that is called the Bible. And we looked at a very interesting story, Abraham bargaining for people. 为人讨价还价. Okay, we're still talking about Abraham. Now we're going to, in the next lesson, talk about the greatest sacrifice. You'll want to join us again for that interesting lesson.
That's all for today, and thanks for watching. If you like Ancient Tales for Today, please visit atft.chinesehope.tv. You may also contact us by writing to ancienttalesfortoday@gmail.com. Again, that's ancienttalesfortoday@gmail.com. Tell your friends about Ancient Tales for Today. See you next time.